In the upper part, there are 3 cartouches, bearing the names of 3 waters, shown in the lower part. The lower part also shows 3 lands, each surrounded by water. The names of these waters were read by the Egyptologists as Power of Waters, Innumerable Waters, Great Place of Waters. Now let's see what Ezra's translations of them were. Genesis chapter 2, verse 11. The name of the first is Pison, the name of the second Gihon, and the third Hiddekel. Next I shall take the biblical boundaries of the Garden of Eden. They are given as thus. Verse 8. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Anyone looking at the map today, taking in Ethiopia, Assyria, and the valley of the Euphrates, and seeing how a land might possibly have covered this area, to represent either an island or a garden, must once feel that the biblical description is purely symbolical, which is corroborated in verse 8, where it says that the garden was eastward in Eden. Where this was written was either in Egypt or Palestine. Therefore, according to the present general acceptance, in the middle of the garden itself, being in the east or towards the east, is a link showing that the Garden of Eden was Mu in another vestment. Verse 9. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Verse 10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into 4 heads. Verse 11. The name of the first is Pison. That is, it was which compassed the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Verse 12. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium, and the onyx stone. Verse 13. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same it is that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That it is which goeth towards the east of Assyria, and the 4th river is the Euphrates. The 4 genii, as I have previously stated, were to my mind another vestment of the sacred 4, which in turn were given to the names of the 4 great pillars, the executors of the Creator's command. The genii appear to be very popular among all ancient peoples since the demise of Mu, but I did not find their names before that date. But in all nations and peoples during the last 10,000 or 11,000 years, the genii are quite prominent. Most of the ancient peoples seem to have used a varied conception of them, and how they should be described. I find them associated with all histories and traditions of the creation. One of the oldest records that I have found them in comes from the Mayas of the Yucatan in Central America. With them, the genii were referred to as the keeper of the pillars. The Mayas, as well as all the other ancients, symbolize the earth as a 4-sided square. At times, and for certain purposes, for explanation, they stood the square on one of its points, forming a diamond out of it. The theology said that these 4 points were 4 pillars sustaining heaven, and at the foot of each pillar was stationed one of the genii to look after and take care of it. The names of the Mayan genii were Kan Bakab, the yellow Bakab, placed in the south; Chak Bakab, the red Bakab, placed in the east; Zak Bakab, the white Bakab, placed in the north; Bakab, the black Bakab, placed in the west. It is thus seen that the Mayas chose to define their genii by colors. The Hindus had 4 genii presiding over their 4 cardinal points. The Hindus used the word cardinal points symbolically. They did not refer to any particular spot or spots, but to wherever they may be. Instead of colors, the genii were called by the phenomena connected with life. Their names were Ruvera, god of wealth, placed in the north; Yama, the judge of the dead, placed in the south; Indra, the king of heaven, placed in the east; Varuna, the god of waters, placed in the west. The genii were also called gods by the Hindus. Chinese. The Chinese designate their genii as Yo's mountains. The 4 mountains say Yo. They also referred to them as the 4 quarters of the earth. They are Tai Shong, the Yo of the east; Sai Hu, the Yo of the west; Hao Kuang, the Yo of the south; Qin Si, the Yo of the north. The Chinese symbolize these mountains as a mountain in the shape of a triangle with an eye at the apex of the mountain looking down from it. Egyptian. According to Egyptian theology, there were 4 genii in Amenti, which were placed at the 4 cardinal points in charge of the pillar where they stood. Their names were Amset, the genius at the cardinal point of the east; Hapu, the genius at the cardinal point in the west; Tisautmuf, the genius at the cardinal point in the north; Kaub Senuf, the genius at the cardinal point in the south; Chapter 125 of the Book of the Dead has a large picture of the Great Hall of Truth of Osiris. Near the seat of Osiris in this picture there are shown the four genii. They are symbolized as men in mummy form. One has the head of a human being, another of a monkey, a third of the hawk, and the fourth of the head of a jackal, Anubis. Chaldeans. Chaldeans believed that there were four genii protecting and looking over the welfare of all human beings. This example does not much show the origin of the genii. As by the swastika, we frequently see in the ancient writings that man's welfare is constantly being watched over by the sacred four, symbolized by crosses, etc., and that by watching over and caring for the physical welfare of the universe, including man, they are acting as the executors of Creator's wishes, desires, commandments, etc. This is the exact work of the genii as conceived by the Chaldeans. The names given to the genii by the Chaldeans were Sed Alak, or Kirub, represented as a bull with a human face; Lamas, or Negal, represented as a lion with a man's head; Ustar, after the human likeness; Nateg, represented with the head of an eagle. The Hittites, Assyrians, and Persians also all had genii engrafted into their cosmogony. The Israelites. Although I cannot find any direct reference in the Jewish research that I have made, this is no criterion and does not say that they did not entirely reject the idea. In Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 10 there is something at least touching on it, for it says, "The four had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side. They four also had the face of an eagle." The foregoing is given as a vision by Ezekiel. At that time it was written that Ezekiel was a captive among the Chaldeans. Let us compare this vision with the Chaldean creed, which had been in existence thousands of years before Ezekiel came to earth. Ezekiel's dreams. Four beasts with the heads of man, another with an ox, and a fourth with an eagle. Chaldean belief. Four genies, beasts with heads, one with a human face, one with the face of a bull, one with the face of a lion, and the fourth with the face of an eagle. These Chaldean genii stood at the bottom of the steps leading to temples and palaces. One could not walk through a city without seeing many of them. Thus it seems to me unquestionably that Ezekiel must have seen them during much of his captivity. A set of four is now on display at the British Museum and came from the king's palace in Nineveh. Ezekiel's vision looks like an embellishment of the Chaldean creed. Is the biblical translation correct? These two slabs were found by William Nevin in an ancient grave on the banks of the River del Oro in the state of Guerrero, Mexico. They are the work of a very ancient civilization like those of the Chimalpa, Remedios, etc. This civilization occupied Mexico less than 12,000 years ago, as is shown in an inscription on one of the tablets. "Return to the region of darkness," which was submerged Mu. Their actual age I cannot estimate. Each slab has a top and bottom division. The divisions are formed by a carved line running horizontally across the face of the slab near its center. The central figure in each of the top divisions is a convenient, symbolic head of Quetzalcoatl, the bearded or feathered serpent, the symbolic serpent of the Creator, in one part of Mu, and corresponds with the Naga or Narayana, the seven-headed serpent of the Oriental countries. The ancient peoples of North America had various names for their serpent of creation. The Quiches called it Gukumats, the serpent covered with feathers. This was found by William Nevin in a grave near Rio del Oro, near Placeras del Oro, in the state of Guerrero, Mexico. Size 28 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 2 inches thick. The Mayas called it Ak el Chapat, the plumed feather or feathered serpent. The Quetzals, the first of men to trod the soil of America, called it the Quetzalcoatl, the bearded serpent. The Pueblo Indians of Arizona and New Mexico, even at present time, call it Quetzalcoatl, the bearded serpent, thus showing that many thousands of years ago there was an intimate religious connection between the Pueblo Indians and this past civilization which dwelt in the valley of Rio del Oro, Mexico. An interesting question arises. Were they intimately connected by blood, or were they even the same people? The Quetzals, the first people to arrive in America, took their name from this serpent in the motherland, just as the Oriental Nagas took their name from the Naga, their serpent of creation. These two slabs have far-reaching significance. They are filled with hieratic letters from the alphabet of Mu. I can find nothing on these slabs to even intimate by which names these people were known. Slab A, Upper Division. The central figure in the upper division of this slab consists of